Density polyethylene, a lot of film and bags, I think would fall under this category. Squeeze bottles. Number 5, polypropylene. This one's polypropylene right here. It's a pretty common one. A drink cup. Polystyrene, which this is expanded polystyrene because it's almost as light as air, like 98% air. But you'll get like a red Solo cup. That's a regular polystyrene. This is an expanded polystyrene. It's just got more air in it, basically. Very convenient because it's so light. Doesn't weigh hardly anything. And then the famous mystery category, the other, number 7, which could be thousands of different things because of the additives they put in there. Difficult to recycle.
Or it could be two things stuck together like paper glued to plastic, like some.
A composite of some sort. They call them composites.
Yeah.
Which basically the rule I read is the more stuff you put together on a package or a product, the harder it is to recycle. Because you got to get that stuff apart to recycle it. Like your,
I like the new squishy bottles
yeah,
you were talking
a
about.
juice box that's plastic and it has like
Yes.
aluminum coating in it.
Juice.
Those sorts of
Yeah.
things.
What about like chip bags?
It's got the aluminum coating on the inside.
So is that like a 7? That's a number 7?
I saw a chart one time that had like 60 numbers. So there's stuff we never even heard of, and they've assigned numbers to wood and all sorts of weird
My
things.
in-laws live in San Francisco and they put everything in the recycling, unless it's like an apple port or I don't even know what goes in the landfill there because everything
Because they've got millions of
recycled.
people
But I
out
wonder
there.
if they put it
A lot of
all.
that will get thrown out.
I guess so.
Or they're paying for it.
TerraCycle in Southern California will take those kinds of things,
They don't take chip bags.
but they won't take chip bags.
Yeah, so we, emerging leaders have signed up for as many brigades as basically as possible, and so we can send in a lot of stuff for free, and we just basically collect from either events that we do or just at home, and we have large boxes just hanging out in our garages until we get enough to send in. But they do have brigades, or not brigades, they have ones where you can sign up and just pay for a box and get it shipped down and fill it out and fill it up and then send it back, but they're pretty expensive if you're just doing it, you know, out of the goodness of your heart for one person. So, but yeah, they do take, I think they're trying to get the chip bag, brigade bag, but yeah, I don't know if they're doing that. They do a lot of completely random stuff. For the Roots Festival, we just sent in all of the plastic cups and utensils and lids and straws and everything, and just boxed it up and created 2 boxes, and we're probably gonna have to order about 3 more, and they're like that tall box, that big around, so. Yeah.
That TerraCycle, that guy that started it is brilliant. You've never
Yeah, he was
Bill
a
Gates.
Bulgarian, son of a Bulgarian immigrant or something.
I don't know where he's from. He was
Yeah.
a cool guy. He shows up at every event known to man. Tells them about it. And they do this with the juice, you know, the little juice packet. And he's brilliant. Not only do they reuse it, yeah, they're on hats, tote bags.
Yeah.
They're adorable, but they're become a status symbol. They're very pricey. And the people at Sunny D are getting free advertising. It is a perfect, he thought of every end of the merchandising cycle, and he makes everybody happy.
You know how he started?
With a,
He dropped out of Yale to sell worm poop to Home Depot.
yeah, it was like
I read
a
the
spray or
the
something.
book he wrote. He's a genius for sure.
Goes to consumer waste.
Yeah, what's his name? Yeah, he's the son of an immigrant from Eastern Europe or something like that. Okay, I just thought this is kind of funny. So put it on there. Because I think, initial reaction from the public, what are you doing? No, this is terrible. We can't live without things. And then the answer's right in front of us a lot of times. And I think our job is, people that know a lot more than the average person and are more motivated is to help everybody else through that transition, I mean, because I hear a lot of people at events with complaints about this or that, and I'm like, yeah, well, but there is a solution to this, and it's really pretty easy when you think about it. Put in your cart, Sam's Club, you know?
I have another question. I want to see what your opinion is. I think you've been kind of leading to it. So say that I had like a Coca-Cola obsession and I drank a Coke every day.
In theory.
In theory. I don't actually drink soda. What could be the best vessel to get it in every day? Would it be a paper cup or an aluminum can or like a styrofoam drive-through cup? Or should I get glass bottles or plastic bottles? I was thinking the reusable, yeah.
In theory, if I
Yeah.
like Diet Coke, I would go to the come and go
Subway.
and just fill up, small and take it to the counter and say, hey, I got to refill a Diet Coke, and they charge me 90 cents. And there'd be no extra container involved in it other than this that I got for a Christmas gift. I think that's probably the best answer I can think of, because you're not creating a demand for new materials. You're getting the thing that you want, the Coke, right?
But if you were buying it in bulk to take home,
If you're buying bulk to take
Or
home.
like
Be
for
glass.
events or
what
something.
would be the best
I
container?
would cans.
Cans or glass?
I would go for aluminum. You can recycle it forever. You save a lot of energy when you do recycle it, and mostly that it doesn't break down. And
And they're lighter weight than glass.
yeah,
They
if I have to
mostly
choose, I go
recycle
for
aluminum to begin with.
right, exactly.
They're already
And
recycled.
I've stuck my toe into research about like toxins in plastics, and there's no BPA in a number one container. That's kind of a myth. But there's a lot of things in there that we still don't understand because the research is relatively new. That's the conclusion I came to when I read it, so I go with aluminum, probably. Okay, so here's one way of thinking about what kinds of products we buy. You've got your consumable stuff, your food, apples, whatever you can consume. Durables, which is things that last a long time, things that are durable, furniture, appliances. Even if I guess if you got well-made clothing, it could be considered durable. You could reuse it, you could repair it. And then, anybody guess what the last one is? Disposable. Yeah. So, if we're going to reduce, reuse, and recycle, what do we want to focus on?
Consumable.
Consumables
And disposable.
and disposable?
We want to recycle it, right? We want to
Or
extract
eliminate
less.
it. What's the
Yeah, or
question?
eliminate it.
What's the question?
If
now?
we're going to thinking about the 3 R's, well, and not just beyond that, also thinking about making less waste and using less energy. One way of saying it is, what do we want to focus on? What kinds of products do we want to focus on making and buying?
Durable.
Durables.
More durable, less disposable.
Well, disposable, I mean, that's kind of maybe a bit of a misleading word, because you can recycle some of this stuff. It is possible to recycle. The thing is, there's been a lot of decades of marketing that have gone into the disposable industry. I mean, there's some really smart people that have spent a lot of time figuring this out and making it convenient and making things disposable. The reality is that even though some of those things could be recycled, most of them are not.
It's better to just buy something that you could reuse over and over.
Exactly.
But I
And then that's why I
read,
was showing like Garnet has a Yeti here.
I,
I'll have that for the rest of my life, unless I lose it on a river trip somewhere.
I read a couple of years ago that to be considered a durable good in the United States, the lifetime is only 3 years.
So our definition of durable has changed. I mean, think about cell phones.
Is a durable good in the United States.
What's the average, like
I was blown away.
18 months, maybe shorter than
Yeah,
that?
I mean,
You've got plastic,
disposable.
glass, heavy metal. You've got a lot of stuff in there. They could be recycled, they could be reused. The reality is, until we get to that point, a lot of them are not. I read the number yesterday. It's something like 17%. It's in the teens, the actual number of cell phones percent that's recycled in the United States.
I remember,
So,
Of all the ones we get at Food Week, not 1% is reusable.
Not 1%
Fixable
is
or
reusable.
whatever.
yeah, it's not worth it.
Well, we don't see them until they're too far gone to actually be made ready, and then all of a sudden you've got something that all you can do is strip it for parts. But we're not Shenzhen, China. If I strip it for parts, I can't make another cell phone out of it because there's no local expertise to then build phones out of that equipment.
Right, but I also heard there, pound for pound, you get more gold out of cell phones than you do
out of ore.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true. You do. Here's the
Yeah.
problem.
Well,
What about the logistics
separating
of
it.
getting that
Right,
out?
sure, sure.
That's
The
where it gets
chemistry involved in
Sure,
removing that
sure.
gold leaves you with a slurry of an amazing amount of mercury. You don't
Horrible,
want to.
yeah.
It's the extraction process.
Right.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, just kind of a simple guide moving towards, because we've got to eat, right? We've got to have consumable things, but we don't necessarily need the packaging around those things. We just want the food. You know, we don't necessarily need that other stuff that we have to pay to buy and then pay to throw away. The durable stuff, you know, thinking about buying things that will last you a long time. Y'all heard the saying, the poor man pays for things twice? You ever heard that before? I heard that recently. Because you buy something that, you know, isn't made so well, it breaks 3 months later, you go back to the store and you buy it again.
Like particle board furniture versus good furniture.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I bought that stuff in college and, you know.
Yeah, well, like, there's a good example. Every move-out day,
Yeah,
nobody takes any of their furniture home with them.
no. It's sitting out there by the apartment.
It's all disposable.
And someone from a Habitat Restore, Rick Fry, who I've got his cell number, will go pick it up, but it has to be in good condition for him to take it. So you can move that stuff again through the economy, but it's not always easy.
Right.
So trying to think about, you know, and this is, remember that you guys, and I haven't said this, and it's one of my like main lines to say, we as consumers have a lot of power. We stop buying something and they'll stop making it. You know, so sometimes thinking about, you know, well, you know, these are big issues. How do I affect these? Every time you go to the store, you vote. You know, and I think that's something, especially with kids. You know, you can tell your mom, I don't want this. I do want this. They're stocking those shelves based on what we want. Okay, back to source reduction. These are just some cool ideas, cool pictures I found. They got these tires they made planters out of, so they didn't have to buy the pot, right? Which would probably been pricey. They just took an old tire. We got some of these out of the solid waste district in Prairie Grove. They painted them purple and put plants in them. Kind of cool. Tires are hard to recycle. They got like, I don't know, 70-something different materials in them. They're really hard to recycle. Buying in bulk, which I walked into. Anybody ever been to Rick's Iron Skillet? I did a long time ago. There's a little Mexican market right next to it called the Montessori, and she sells, I don't really shop there, I'll eat a burrito there occasionally, but she sells beans and stuff like that, just straight out of the basket. Going to pick them up. So that's one way to do it. In a lot of places, that's still how most people buy their food. You know, when I
A lot of
lived
the
in-
world, just not
Yeah,
here.
when I lived in Latin
Yes,
America, that's what you did. You went to the market and you know, put stuff in a bag.
Walmart, the new Walmart in, where's it, Allen? Right? The new one on the highway.
On MLK, the
No.
neighborhood market, where?
No,
Where, Fayetteville?
Elm
Springdale.
Springdale, okay.
They have big bins of beans.
Bulk bins.
Well, the old one
Bulk
too,
bins.
in Springdale, because they have a large,
Whole Foods has
Hispanic.
those. Walmart.
they have a Hispanic,
Yeah.
The whole Walmart.
they have a Hispanic culture in Springdale, and who is used to,
That's what the customer wants.
right,
Yeah.
Yep.
But
And you
those
know,
natural foods just have rolled forever.
yeah.
Forever, yeah. And I think there's a perception that a lot of times it's like, stick this thing in there and get that out. It's dirtier somehow. It's cleaner if it's in a package, but I
Yeah,
don't
we,
Not necessarily.
that's a cultural thing.
it's
Yeah.
just a cultural
Especially
perception.
things like beans, right? You're gonna boil them.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to be
It doesn't really matter a whole lot who touches them. Yeah.
Can you guys think of anything you could make out of these three ingredients?
Baking soda, clean the whole house.
Baking soda, cornstarch, and coconut oil.
Cleaners.
I'd leave out the
You
coconut.
can actually make deodorant out of that. I do it. Leah, my coworker, told me, and you can, actually, the cornstarch, yeah, that thickens it.
Cornstarch.
So you would be amazed with those 3 ingredients and a little bit of essential oil, how many things you can make out of that sort of stuff. And those are things that you can buy in bulk. I started making toothpaste and deodorant out of those and a few other items, and it works. My dentist didn't say anything. When I walked in there, I didn't tell him. I just laid down and he's like, "No, you're fine, no cavities, go home." So I'm not so sure about the whole fluoride thing now.
It's still in your water though.
It is, you're right.
Thankfully.
Take your wrinkles away.
So another big piece of 3R's composting. You guys have ever seen a worm bin? You can vermicompost where you just take a bin and you put your worms in some newspaper and feed scraps. And we actually have a program where we do that with kids at schools and different places. That's me with the Botanical Gardens Garden Buds program. So easy, even a kid can do it. The worm bin thing. That's a good option for if you have limited outdoor space for composting. You don't want to, have a pile. You can do a bin inside. It's really easy. A little tricky to get started because the worms are kind of finicky, but fairly easy. And then just regular compost. And, it doesn't have to be fancy. I've got just a little structure, and I just throw my scraps in there. Of course, no meat, no dairy. And then throw some leaves or some brown grass clippings on it and turn it once in a while. Let's see. So compost in Fayetteville, if y'all remember back to the numbers, 18% of our residential waste was food. It's a big chunk. And over by the transfer station, we have a composting facility. It's a big, how many acres is it?
A little over 3 acres.
3 acres, and this is a flat slab where you have all these rows on there. It's really cool to see. In 2015, they got almost 7,000 tons of yard waste, and I'm guessing that'll probably go up for this year. Because
It's pretty close.
pretty close to that. And it's a Class Y permit that we have through ADEQ that allows us to do that program.
Y stands for yard waste.
Yard waste. So, the compost is sold for $20 a scoop, which is a good price. And it's high quality too. People say it's very high quality. The mulch is $10. This guy gives you an idea of how it happens. It's a collection, and they grind yard waste. They've got a row turner, which it's also got the aerator. What do they call that thing?
There's a little, it's a shaft at the bottom, has little flails on it.
Yeah.
And then as we go through the rows, it fluffs up the pile, so air gets introduced into it.
And then
And
screen
that's
it to get the larger particles out and whatnot. And then you pull up with the truck and load it in there. And it's a really high quality product. We just did a food waste pilot too, where we incorporated food waste from 5 restaurants, 2 schools,
University.
and the University of Arkansas, and it went really well, which could be a game changer as far as getting food waste out of the landfill for Fayetteville.
Justin?
Yeah.
Is that the school you're talking about?
Yeah.
A bucket, front loader bucket?
Yeah. It'll fill up the back end.
How much weight?
A lot.
It's going to be, a cubic yard is about 1,000 pounds. So that bucket is it's a 2 cubic yard bucket.
Wow.
And they fill it up a little bit more, so it's a little more than 2 cubic yards.
Pickup truck, little pickup truck.
No, we only sell that to Fayetteville.
It's on the ground.
Because they're the ones that give us the yard waste and we sell it back to them. It's such a very popular program.
You have to produce one. You have to produce one.
Yeah, right.
It shows that you're a resident.
Grass, land, brush.
So back to the whole thing we were talking about, a closed loop, right? What does that mean, carbon neutral? Anybody know?
It doesn't add any more CO2 to the atmosphere.
we don't put any more up there than it can handle, basically. I mean, that's a kind of a global goal right now that talks are talking about. And there's a lot of ways that can be done on large scale facilities, but there's also a lot of things we can do on a small scale, like composting, buying things with less packaging, buying in bulk, that will contribute to that goal. And recycling, of course. This is one of my favorite terms, extended producer responsibilities. Anybody know what that is?
That's what you're talking about, like the guy that makes the plastic, thinking about where it's made.
Exactly. Whoever makes the stuff is responsible for creating a way to buy it back.
That's right.
Tires in Arkansas, batteries, bottle bills in 10 states or something like that. These programs work very well. The challenge is convincing the legislators to get those things in place, I think, in a lot of places, because you've got to, convince them that it's not going to be an excessive burden on business and that people want it.
But see, I don't understand the bottle deposit going away. I mean, that was the norm when I was a kid growing up. Every Coke bottle had a deposit. You saved them all, you took them all back. That's how it worked.
But then we got to more disposable things, and it was a lot easier for the stores not to deal with that, and the bottlers.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah.
The stores didn't want to deal with it, and
Yeah.
the distributors didn't want to pay the extra money to do it.
To collect and, yeah.
Well, near and dear to our hearts, right, in several of the states in the United States, any computer manufacturers have to pay for this sort of producer responsibility for recycling of their electronic items. This has come up in Arkansas a couple of times, and every time it's shut down by the industry. They don't want to pay in our state for that privilege of having access to our market, in a responsible way. But they do this already in California, New York,
Right.
The consumer would pay for it.
Of course, like nobody's going to care that their iPhone's $10 extra, right? They're going to care if
They
it's
won't
$400 more dollars, but it isn't.
Yeah, once the transition occurs, they won't even notice.
Right.
But when
yeah.
you buy computer components for resale, because I bought them for many years, we were a reseller. They started charging you a fee that you had to pay, and it was a recycling fee. And I was in Arkansas.
Yeah, but that's probably because the distributor that you're buying it from
Yeah.
operated in a state that had that law, and so you're paying back into that state, but then you had no outlet here when you sold to the end consumer.
Right.
So that fee was paid, but it was to someone who was not going to take advantage of the service.
So if you are a reseller buying computer components in this state, you're paying that if it comes from another state.
Yeah, it comes from with a
The state with the-
responsibility.
Yes.
yeah.
If you start looking at the coasts, Northeast, Oregon, California, Washington, you'll see the trend is for more extended producer responsibility. There's a lot of laws and there's a lot of materials in California, Connecticut, Maine, Jersey, I think. And so from what I see the trend pushing us in that direction.
Well, we may see federal legislation soon. There is a lot of talk about making that uniform in a federal program.
And they do it in Europe all over, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Part of your back tax.
This is a very effective way of getting high return rates for materials. The return rate on batteries is like 90-something%. Nobody recycles that much stuff anywhere. That's high. That's really high. Another part of this, and we talked about this before, places like Free Habitat Restore, by closing this loop, we're also getting local economy. And nobody's going to argue that we don't want local jobs, I think. That's a win-win situation. And I think for a lot of reasons, it's a direction that we need to move to. Less packaging, that's an easy way that we can do, when we purchase things, just choose your option with less packaging. When you can. It's not always an option, but a lot of times it is. Sam's, they don't offer you bags there when you go to Sam's. You just put the bulk items in your cart. So that's already a piece of, reducing on the bag. Practicing the 3 R's, of course. If I get into like a complicated discussion and feel like I'm in over my head, I just go back to the 3 R's. This is the easiest way of telling someone, well, here's what you do. This is a very easy way of, you know, practicing sustainability. Just go back to the 3 R's. And then, you know, and this is starting to happen, and it's having some discussion about possibly having a regional recycling plan where we can start to